All right, let's dive in. If you've been thinking of AI as just a cool experiment with chatbots, well, 2026 is the year that completely flips the script. We're going to take a look at how AI is moving past the pilot stage and is now actively rebuilding companies from the ground up. And it all starts with a huge shift in what we expect from it.
This quote right here, it says it all. The time for playing around with AI just for the sake of it is officially done. In 2026, the entire conversation has pivoted. It's no longer about hype, it's about accountability. It's about cold, hard return on investment. Basically, if an AI system can't prove it's pulling its weight, it's getting cut.
And believe me, companies are putting their money where their mouth is. We are talking about a staggering $600 billion in spending from the big cloud companies alone. And most of that cash, it's going straight into building out AI infrastructure. This isn't just a budget item anymore. It's the new foundation of our entire digital economy. So when you put all that together, you start to see that AI is becoming something much bigger than just a tool. It's turning into a digital colleague, a powerful new engine for getting things done, and, as we're about to see, a totally new kind of risk that needs to be managed. So for the rest of our time here, we're going to take a tour through the modern company, department by department, to see how this is all really playing out. Okay, first things first. Before we jump into specific departments, we need to get our heads around the really big foundational changes that are happening, both in how AI itself is built and in the very nature of how we work. At the heart of all this is a concept called multi-agent systems, and it's actually a pretty simple idea. Instead of trying to build one giant know-it-all AI, the smart move is to create a team of specialist AIs that work together. So you might have one agent that's great at planning, another that's a workhorse for execution, and a third one whose only job is to validate and double-check the results. It's a lot more like a real-world team, and it's way more reliable for handling complex business problems. The real intelligence is in the teamwork. All right, now let's see what happens when we apply this stuff to the part of the business that customers actually see and feel. This is where AI's impact is often the most obvious. By 2026, the way we interact with companies is completely different. We're talking about hyper-personalization that changes on the fly based on what you're doing right now. But the real mind bender is something called agentic commerce. This is where you tell your personal AI assistant what you want and it goes out and makes the purchase for you. And the AI assistants you talk to, they're becoming more like digital concierge, not just answering questions, but actually getting things done for you and even picking up on your mood. And this isn't science fiction. 2/3 of marketing teams are already all in on this stuff. So, moving on from the front office, let's head back into the engine room of the company. This is where AI stops being just software and starts having a real physical impact on how things get made and moved around the world. And the key idea here is physical AI. This is a massive trend for 2026. AI is literally jumping off the screen and into the real world. It's the brain that powers the robots on the factory floor, the self-driving trucks on the highway, and the incredibly complex systems running smart warehouses. And you can see the results right here. In procurement, you have AI agents finding the best suppliers and placing the orders all by themselves. For quality control, they're spotting defects in real time. For maintenance, they're not just predicting a machine will fail, they're autonomously ordering the replacement parts or even scheduling the repair. And in the supply chain, well, some companies are on track to automate up to 80% of their day-to-day transactional decisions. That is a huge shift. Okay, let's turn our attention to the company's central nervous system, finance and HR. In these core departments, AI is creating a revolution in speed, in accuracy, and in strategic thinking. So this idea of autonomous finance is becoming very real. We're talking about fraud systems that don't just send an alert, they stop a suspicious transaction cold before it even goes through. We're seeing credit scores that can change dynamically based on all sorts of new data. And those slow, painful processes like verifying customer documents for bank accounts, they're now being automated, cutting the wait time from days down to just a few minutes. And over in HR, automation is completely reshaping jobs. Now, when you see numbers like this, almost half of companies automating a big chunk of a recruiter's tasks, it's easy to jump to conclusions about job losses. But that's not really the story. The goal is to get rid of the repetitive administrative work so that HR pros can focus on the stuff that really matters: strategy, company culture, and developing people. But of course, all of this incredible power and autonomy creates some pretty significant risks. And that brings us to our next area, which is absolutely critical: building the guardrails in IT, risk, and compliance. This slide really shows the night and day difference in security. The old way was reactive. It was like a smoke detector. It beeps, and then a human has to run around and figure out what's wrong. The new model, agentic security, is proactive. The AI agent doesn't just send an alert. It actively investigates the threat and responds immediately, often neutralizing the problem before a human even knows it happened.
And the pressure to get this right isn't just coming from inside the company. The regulatory clock is ticking, and it is ticking loud. From California and Colorado in the US to the entire EU, to South Korea and Vietnam, major AI laws are kicking in throughout 2026. Complying with this stuff is no longer optional, it's just the cost of doing business. So here's the bottom line. The conversation around AI governance has moved way beyond the ethics classroom. When one wrong move by an autonomous AI can cause a direct financial loss or a massive legal fine, having strong, robust governance isn't just a good idea, it becomes a matter of corporate survival.
And that brings us to our final and honestly, probably the most important section. With all of this incredible technology, what happens to the people? Well, the answer seems to be a whole new kind of partnership.
The very definition of what makes an employee valuable is getting a massive rewrite. It's no longer just about how well you can execute a specific, narrow task. Instead, the real value now comes from your ability to orchestrate, to use your judgment across different parts of the business, and to supervise the systems of AI agents that are actually doing the work. We're all shifting from being players on the field to being the coaches on the sideline. And this big shift is creating a brand new, super important role, the AI generalist. And this isn't necessarily a super technical person who writes code all day. This is someone who gets the business from end to end, who can supervise and guide these AI teams, and who can ultimately tell if they're doing a good job or not. They're the ones who connect all the dots. So, are companies actually getting ready for this? Yeah, they are. We're seeing some really concrete steps. About a third of big companies are going to make AI fluency training mandatory. We're seeing new metrics pop up to measure a team's AIQ or AI readiness. And get this, HR software platforms are now starting to manage AI agents right alongside their human coworkers, creating a truly blended workforce.
Which really leaves us with the one big critical question. This digital workforce isn't some sci-fi movie concept anymore. It's here. It's arriving in 2026. The biggest challenge and the greatest opportunity isn't going to be building the tech. It's going to be learning how to lead and manage it effectively. So the question is, are you ready?